Good morning, it's Joy with Decor Made with Joy, coming to you from my craft studio here in Franklin, Tennessee with a tip of the week. This tip involves on how to attach a sign to a wreath. There are lots of different ways that we can attach signs to wreaths depending on the type of wreath and the type of sign that you have. The method that I'm going to show you involves using a jewelry pliers with punch to punch holes into the sign, and then using a product called bind wire to attach the sign to my wreath. Bind wire is just wire covered in paper that kind of protects it. It also blends in really well. So here is an example of a wreath that I made this week. Let me hold it back so you can see it. And I've attached a sign here. And I don't know if you can see, but let me get closer to the camera. I have some bind wire attached through a hole here and up here. It looks real nice, neat, and clean as a way to attach a sign. So I'll tell you a little bit about these jewelry pliers. They're called metal hole punch pliers for jewelry, and they look like this. And they're available at all the craft stores or even on Amazon. These are 1.5 millimeters because it gives me a nice small hole that my bind wire will go through. The brand that I have is Speedwax, but I don't think that really matters. And these are under $10. So let me show you bind wire. Bind wire comes on a spool. It looks like this. Comes in different gauges. I use for my sign attachments the small gauge. I think this is 26 gauge. And to attach bows and ribbons to wreaths, I use a larger gauge. So the first thing you're going to do when you get a sign that you want to attach, I order a lot of signs from Etsy, but there are different sign makers out there that are not on Etsy, but you just decide what you want. And this is an example of a real pretty sign that I got recently. It says hello on it. It's in the orange and the pink. And this is made by Glitter Shack Creations. A friend that I've made online, David, makes these. And when I ordered it, he offered to punch a hole for me in top and bottom or the sides. But I chose just to order it with no holes because I like to decide what wreath I'm going to put it on and kind of play around with it to see where I want my holes. You know, you could put a sign in the middle, you could put it on the left or the right. This is a grapevine. You could put it on a green pine wreath, and you might want the holes somewhere different. So what I do is play around. This is a real small grapevine, a 14-inch, and I decide where I want my holes. And in this case, I would want them at the top and the bottom. And so I take my jewelry pliers and just punch 2 holes at the top. It's that simple. Let me see if I can lift this up so you can see what I'm doing. Just about a 1/4 inch apart. And I don't have very strong arms, but that, you know, I was able to punch that through with no problem. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to take a piece of bind wire. This one is about 18 inches long, and I'm going to feed it through my top holes till I'm about halfway the length, about 9 inches in, and then I'll feed through the other side. So what you end up with is a nice, attractive looking just line there. It's not messy looking. I find chenille stems just a little too thick. I don't want to see all that. And then I simply twist it to lock it in there. Lock it. Lock it. I do the same thing on the back of my wreaths. Is twist and lock it in. So it is locked in there. Now you're going to decide where to put it on your wreath. And we are not going to go around the grapevine. We are going to feed it through the grapevine, like sewing. It's too messy looking to go around it. You're going to end up seeing it. This you will never see. Okay, so I fed it through one side. Then I'm going to pull it up tight. And then I'm going to feed the second side through. And sometimes it's not quite that easy as I was able to do this time. Let me go ahead and lock it in. I twist it around and around about 5 times. Okay, so now look how locked in that is. That's not going anywhere. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom and attach that right down here with my second piece of bind wire. And on the back, you'll see, you know, there's some pieces of grapevine. I haven't trimmed this one off yet, but here's my bind wire. It just blends right in. I am not going to cut that and trim it until the end because I may want to move this sign. I change my mind a lot. So again, it's just the pieces of the bind wire are right here. I've got it twisted around where that top's not going anywhere. And this one, same thing that I did earlier in the week. I haven't trimmed this one off yet, but it's locked in, and I'm almost through with this wreath. But see how that bind wire just blends right in to the grapevine? And the bind wire comes in all colors. I don't find I need a lot of colors. This brown is kind of neutral, but you could get any color. If you're going to attach a sign to a pine wreath, you're going to go through the pines and attach it, try to attach it to the wire frame of the pine wreath, or attach it to a zip tie that you have pulled that pine wreath into an oval shape. But want to attach it to something pretty solid. So we'll go ahead and do the bottom of this small little wreath here. And again, I'm going to feed a piece of bind wire that's about 18 inches long. And I just eyeball that. I don't measure per se. I'm going to feed it through about halfway. And then the second hole, I'm going to feed the other side through. And it's going to look like that at the bottom. I'm going to lock it in place before I feed it through my grapevine. Twist around itself. And then I'm going to feed it through the bottom of the grapevine. And once that's attached, that sign is not going anywhere. So it's nice and secure in the mail. If you're mailing a wreath, it won't come loose or anything. Okay, another little tip for you is one of my favorite tools that I use. I see other wreath makers using pliers, but I'm a retired nurse, so I use a hemostat to, if I'm having trouble feeding a wire through, I'll just make me a little hole and reach and grab the end and pull it through. So hemostats, you can order these right off of Amazon, are a good tool. And then once I have that sign exactly where I want it, and I'm not sure in this case that I do, but close enough for a demonstration, then I go ahead and use my wire cutters to cut off the bind wire at the length I want it. And I'll show you these wire cutters in a second, but I take the end of the bind wire and just fold it up. And that's the neat thing about it being covered with paper, is that you won't poke yourself or stick yourself. So, and again, it is nice and hidden, and will not ruin the back of your design. About these wire cutters, these I learned from other wreath makers, are called Knipex. They're heavy duty. They cut wire and stems of florals real readily, even if you've got a weak hand. These are pricey, but they're well worth it. I did have just a pair of my husband's pliers, and yeah, they cut wire very well, but they're hard for a small woman's hands to operate. So anyway, that is Decor Made with Joy's tip of the week, and I hope to film some other things next week. Take care.